So again, we're lining the D-loop up two ways, horizontally, vertically. Again, stopping at 430 on our back cast, lifting and out, and then vertically staying flat. Now if I blow if my bottom hand, again, it all comes down a lot of times to bottom hand control. If I come back and my bottom hand comes down, I'm trunking my cast. You can see my D-loops all hitting the water at the same time. There's no way to get that cast to work. Every spey cast, you need to get on top of your line. What I mean by that is, let's say I just set my anchor first. Basically now what I want to do, instead of coming high like we talked about, that's going to make your line go down. Instead, I want to stay low and then bring the rod up and cast it out. Okay, and you guys see, what's up, Gary? The lift on a switch cast, or? Oh, okay. You mean stop on the lift? Yeah. So, you mean stop here? Okay. And I was gonna get into this. That's okay. That's good. So I sweep back low. When I finish my backstroke, my hand is basically going level with or just under my shoulder. Every cast, it doesn't matter. Level with or under my shoulder. Then I lift the rod up. And I'm gonna stop like Gary suggested. Lift and up. My hand at the beginning of my forward stroke is about ear level. And again, the rod butt is cutting across my body. It's inside my elbow. Okay, that's a good position for your forward cast. So this is what I call 430 low. 430 low, the rod's cutting across a little bit more straight in front of your body. And my hand is about shoulder level. That is my stop point on my backstroke, regardless of the cast. For my forward stroke, my rod butt's cutting a little bit further out in front of me. Okay, so the hand's a little bit closer to the elbow in line, but not beyond it. So that's so 430 low is the stop point. 430 high is where I lift to make my forward stroke. And look at the, it's nothing crazy. You don't want to be, very often I see guys are coming back and they're overthinking it and they're doing this kind of thing. It's just going to blow your line out of whack. Keep the line level, lift it up gently, make your forward cast. Any questions so far on what we've talked about? No? So we've gone over kind of the basic switch cast. And again, a switch cast, what a switch cast is it's an aerialized anchor cast. Basically, when I do a switch cast, as soon as that anchor hits, I'm casting out. Okay, I can do what I would call an inline snap tee. You guys probably all know what a snap tee is. The only difference is I'm going to do it inline, meaning I'm not going to change direction. What I'm doing here, this is a sustained anchor cast. I'm setting the anchor first, and then I'm transitioning into my sweep. Now, the main difference here is when I do a switch cast, I need a lift first. So I do my lift first, so I lift fairly high. I got to bring the rod down in order to get my anchor. Whereas on a snap tee, I've already set the anchor. I don't need to do anything crazy with the rod tip now. All I need to do with the rod tip is just keep it level and controlled. Okay, so those are the main difference between an aerialized anchor cast and a sustained anchor cast. If I were to do a double spey right now, and let's say I'm going to cast across the river, I'm going to face this way. Okay, I'm going to bring my anchor, and I'm going to run through all the casts. I don't know, what time do I have now? Half an hour? So I'm going to bring my anchor upriver, and I'll talk about this later. And then I'm going to sweep that rod around level, bring the rod up, and cast it out. So that back cast again is level. I lift the rod up and cast it out. Everything is the same, and you can see there was no funky rod movement when I came around in my sweep on my double spey. It's just I've already set my anchor. What I need to do now is control my rod tip, keep it level, parallel with the water. There, you mean? Well, the first part, what I'm doing is I'm bringing the anchor, I'm bringing the line upriver to position the anchor. Yes. Yeah. I'm going to go into the double spey here in a little bit and talk about that. So let me go back to reading the anchor real quick, and then I'm going to go through all the casts. Okay, we talked about the anchor on a switch cast should be here. So if I have an anchor that's out in front of me, Usually that's from a lack of acceleration. We talked about acceleration before. You need to accelerate in order to get your anchor up into position. If I don't accelerate, I don't energize the line, therefore I have a low anchor. Now a low anchor could also come from a low rod stroke, like just too low. Very often though, if I see a low anchor, generally speaking, the person is not accelerating. They're overthinking the cast, they're decelerating, they're just not committing to the stroke. So if you see that your anchor is consistently low, and it doesn't matter the cast. Right now I'm doing a switch. If I were to do a, let's say a single spey, you know what, let's just say a double spey so I don't have to move for now. So I set my anchor here. If I come around and I leave line out in front of me, it's the same thing as that switch cast, leaving the anchor too low. I'm just not accelerating enough to get the D-loop back. So if you're leaving your anchor out in front, whether it's a switch cast, a single spey, a double spey, a spiral roll, it doesn't really matter. If you've done a sustained anchor cast like a snap T or a double spey, and there's line left out in front of where your anchor is, then you're probably not accelerating. That, or you're dipping the rod, and we'll talk about that too. Or you're just tracking the rod too low. So here would be one with good acceleration, but it's just the rod's so low that I can't get the anchor up into position. So there I had acceleration again, but the rod's tracking too low, and I leave my anchor out front. So again, if you see a low anchor, either you're not accelerating or the rod's too low. If your anchor's too far back, very often, most of the time on an anchor that's too far back, it's caused because the rod's not coming down, and simply your anchor just flies out. So again, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter the cast. On a switch cast, you're just not coming down. On a, if I were to do a single spey, and don't worry, I won't cast, but if I were to do a single spey, wait, let me start. I was going to do that good. If I were to do a single spey and stay too high, my anchor should be here, but you can see it went too far back. So that's because I didn't bring the rod down. I kept it high. When I go to do a single spey, and I'm going to go over again these casts together, when I go to do a single spey, it's the same as a switch cast. The rod needs to come down. So when I go to change direction, the only difference is I'm just turning the cast and bringing the rod down. And there, that anchor was a little low because I went slow to show you guys, but the anchor should be there. Yeah. Immediately, and that when I go over my single spey, I'm going to talk about that. Yeah, when you get, anytime, like I was talking about before, your rod has to be low out in front of you. So whether it's a switch cast or a single spey, you have to lift first to get the line moving. We talked about that. The rod tip needs to come down immediately, but you have to keep tension. You have to accelerate. You have to lift, you got to drop the rod and accelerate. If you don't accelerate, you're not going to get the anchor up high enough. Okay, and if I don't bring the rod, if I come here and I start to up high and then come down, it's too late. I'm going to crash my anchor behind me. And I'm going to talk about, let's go back into reading the anchor. So we talked about if I stay high, my anchor blows out. It can also come from too much power. So I'll do a good stroke, but overpower it. Just too much power. I blew my anchor out. You know, I brought the rod down. So read your anchor. Low anchor, lack of acceleration or too low. High anchor is usually you're tracking the rod too high or you're overpowering it.